This is Teachers Talk Radio, and you are listening live.
Good afternoon and welcome to all my listeners out there. I am just so excited today once again to get my topic going, and I'm going to be solo today. So I want all my listeners to jump in and join the conversation.
This is Teachers Talk Radio, and you are listening live. Tune in live at ttradio.org, or to join in the conversation, download the Podbean app and search Teachers Talk Radio. Follow the hashtag TTRadio. Tune in, talk it out with Teachers Talk Radio.
Good afternoon and yes, good evening to UAE listeners. Good afternoon to UK listeners and worldwide. A warm welcome to my show on Teachers Talk Radio. My topic today has been, of course, a last minute topic because my guest had to take on, due to some emergency, has not been here. So I'm going solo today. But I think this topic is really going to resonate with many. Just looking at the climate outside, it's been really cold these days here in UAE. Yes, it's been really chilling cold. And especially when I have to like get up in the morning, it's really difficult because it looks like I'm going to school in during the night. So what happens is it's pitch dark. You have the street lights on, and definitely I have to say that I also watch the moon while going to school, and yes, because it's winters, but the temperatures are really, really low, and I really wonder how the little ones, these children, make it up for school. Because I know it's a really tough time getting my little one to get up and make her, dress her up and get her going to school. Even we have kids falling ill and other things again owing to the weather conditions. This was just a little chat on how weather is like. And yes, what's the topic? I'm sure you're really wanting to know. I just put it on chat for that matter. Teaching today, rising expectations, real pressures, and how educators can respond sustainably. I think this word sustainable has become the core of everything. I mean to say, how can you be sustainable with your day to day things? And now let's include this into our teaching also, how you can respond to pressures and respond it sustainably. So again, I just want to start off saying that teaching today is not what it was 10 years ago. I have completed, I thanks to I really thank Lord God for this. But yes, I have completed 18 years now in this field, and I continue and I want to and I love to teach, and I want to continue with this profession till my last day. So, but yes, it teaching today is not what it was 10 years down the line. And there are certain things that are familiar. Of course, I think I don't even need to say, but we all agree students, curriculum, and for a certain extent, the ambience of the schools. But the expectation placed on teachers have changed fundamentally. So today's show is about talking about these expectations honestly, and I have read a lot, so I'm going to be grounding them in research and real stories, and most importantly, exploring how teachers can respond without burning out. Because I have personally seen many of my not yeah, colleagues, you could say. I would not call them friends, but yeah, colleagues, uh, who have maybe joined the teaching profession, but they just want to give up in a year or two or even months. That's something which does not settle with me. So I'm really looking forward to inspiring people out there that teaching is the best profession you can be in. But I'm not sure how much I would, but I'll try. So, starting off with my first segment, the expanding role of the teacher. So let's converse a little of what teachers are actually expected to do. I'm sure all those who are listening out there to me, beyond the list that I mentioned, the expectations of what the teachers do besides teaching, I would, I'm sure you could have just kept adding it on and the list would have been never ending. But yes, I have a certain list after just browsing through and looking at conversations, posts, articles. I think beyond teaching, we are expected to personalize learning for diverse needs, close attainment gaps, support well-being, mental health, integrate technology meaningfully, provide evidence of impact, communicate continuously with parents, align with inspection framework, or adapt to constant reform. I think the last one is most applicable. And I came across something as according to 2023, the OECD Teaching and Learning International Survey, teachers across multiple countries reported that the role now feels a little fragmented, like pulled in many directions at once. And one teacher interviewed said that I don't feel like I'm failing at teaching. I feel like I'm failing at being everything else. So the problem is not competence; it is role overload. So I'm bringing out these facts in front of you, and I will definitely look at it from a point of view where we can sort it out. Okay. And yes, I'm sure you might agree to me, you might disagree to me, you might have more of additional um, strategies. And it's I welcome you all on board. Please, all my listeners out there, if you're listening to me and you're attending my show, you can definitely pose it on chat, come in live on air, and we can discuss it. Before I go to the next segment where we will be talking about time poverty and decision fatigue and a little bit of more questions to reflect on, we'll take a quick news break.
This show is brought to you in partnership with Hachette Learning, publishers of professional development books and resources that support great teaching and learning in schools around the world. Level up your professional development today and visit hachetlearning.com to explore the full range of titles.
Hey teachers, it's Tom here from Teachers Talk Radio, just dropping in to tell you about Teachers Talk Connect 2026. We are back with our amazing big annual CPD and networking extravaganza in Manchester. It's on Saturday, the 14th of March, and tickets are completely free for teachers. Just head over to ttradio.org/connect 2026 to grab your ticket today. We can't wait to see you there.
This is Teachers Talk Radio, and this is Teachers Talk Radio News.
Schools Week features comment from Ofsted boss Sir Martin Oliver about the new schools inspection framework. Responding to a question from an audience member at Bet UK about the joint attendance and behaviour strand, he said merging the two areas into one judgment did bother him tremendously. The audience member warned that the strand was particularly difficult for schools in highly deprived areas where attendance might be lower. Sir Martin stressed that his original intent was to have behaviour and attendance as separate areas. Ofsted's initial plans proposed distinct judgments for the two areas, but Oliver said that during consultation over the reforms, many people, many organisations said very clearly there were too many areas that they'd want to see a number of them combined. And the areas they talked about combining were curriculum and teaching and attendance and behaviour. Sir Martin said Ofsted was watching the category and would carry on watching it. He also used his bet address to announce newly inspected schools will soon be given QR codes to help prevent them from cherry picking grades shared with parents. They will be introduced in the coming weeks. Full details of Sir Martin's bet appearance can be found online. BBC Scotland News reports that some teachers in Scotland are spending years on the supply list or leaving the country due to a lack of permanent jobs. Analysis of Scottish Government figures shows that most newly qualified teachers in Scotland are no longer getting permanent jobs, especially in primary schools, despite schools saying they are under pressure. Education Secretary Jenny Gilruth said pay rises for teachers had made employing them more expensive, but the progress was being made on teacher numbers. It has been 5 years since the Scottish Government made its 2021 manifesto promise to tackle excessive levels of teacher workload by employing 3,500 additional teachers and reducing teachers' maximum class contact time to 21 hours per week. Scottish Government figures for 2024 to 25 show that 2,294 newly qualified teachers completed their probation year. However, only 568 of those teachers secured a permanent post. Primary teachers are most affected. The EIS Teaching Union said Scotland was 4,310 teachers down on the level promised in the 2021 pledge. For full details, government comment, union reaction and stories from individual teachers, see the BBC News Scotland website. The Guardian says ministers are scrapping target numbers for international students in the UK and will instead focus on encouraging universities to open hubs abroad as part of a plan to bring British education to people on their own doorsteps. The new international education strategy will set a target of increasing global education exports to £40 billion a year by 2030, replacing the previous target, set in 2019, of recruiting 600,000 international students a year to study in the UK. The DFE said it would also bring in toughened compliance standards to ensure those coming to the UK to study were genuine students. The Education Secretary Bridget Phillipson said, "By expanding overseas, our universities, colleges and education providers can diversify income and give millions more access to a world-class UK education on their own doorstep, all whilst boosting growth at home." But Amira Campbell, president of the NUS UK, said students wanted to learn alongside peers rather than being on different continents, and that the government must ensure the same high-quality teaching and well-rounded university experience enjoyed by students in the UK is present across all satellite campuses, including abroad. More details on the Guardian website. Finally, 2 schools in Wolverhampton have been able to reopen after a smell which provoked unexplained nausea forced them to close. Paramedics were called to one school to assess a number of patients after an unusual odour was detected near the school's swimming pool. A neighbouring school was closed as a precaution. Work has been carried out on the school's heating and air handling system to remove the odour, according to a council spokesperson. West Midlands Fire Service said its specialist monitoring equipment detected nothing of concern. More details on the BBC West Midlands website. This has been Teachers Talk Radio News with Joe Fox.
Thank you for the news and welcome back. Hey listeners, in just before I went in for the news break, I spoke about how the role of teachers has expanded. And now in my next segment, I want to go deeper, not into policies, not into frameworks, but into what this expansion feels like on an ordinary teaching day. Because many of us, I'm sure, today face a lot of challenges, and that will not show up in into our job description, but it would might show up in our bodies and minds. So very important. I am looking at this aspect. This aspect is known as, according to me, the invisible cognitive load. So let's talk about the cognitive load, but not in the way we usually discuss it for students. Of course, not at all. Teachers today carry an extraordinary amount of mental juggling. At any given moment in a lesson, a teacher is thinking about learning objectives, learning outcomes, space of the lesson, who is lost, who is bored, behavior signals, classroom management, time slipping away, ex- uh, making sure to wrap the lesson up with points where I show in more than like 75% of my students have understood. Assessment evidence, basically. The next lesson that's going to come up, the child who looked upset earlier. And this isn't multitasking, it's continuous decision making. So, research in cognitive psychology tells us that human working memory is limited, okay? When that limit is exceeded, performance doesn't decline gradually, it drops sharply. So when teachers say I'm exhausted, but I didn't do anything physical, this is the why behind it. Like I remember days, at times, you come home and you feel really exhausted, and it could be that days where you've had lessons which are, yeah, you've really more than some hours in a day you've spent only teaching. So, there's another term used in psychology called the decision fatigue. It explains why people struggle to make good decisions after making too many decisions early in the day. So, teaching is a profession saturated with decisions. Should I intervene or wait? Do I move on or reteach? Do I support emotionally or academically right now? Is this behavior or communication? I'm not sure if you're trying to get what if you're trying to connect to me, but yes, I'm posing these questions so that you can reflect on. So a 2024 article in Education Week quoted a teacher who said, by the end of the day, it's not the teaching that drains me, it's the constant deciding. So because when teachers are mentally depleted, even excellent strategies become very hard to implement. I I hope you're trying to get this is just a lesson decision making that I'm talking about. I am so sure beyond the lesson where we have our development time, there are at times you are also making decisions during that time as well. Whether it is about some theme based activity that you have to think of creatively, whether it is exams, upcoming assessments that you have to prepare creative question papers. Again, creating a question paper itself is a task in itself. And some people say teaching has always been hard. I've heard that, I have experienced that, but yes, it is true. But what's different now is the density. So, more expectation, more documentation, more accountability, more communication channels, more initiatives, often layered, not replaced. So, teaching hasn't just become harder, it's become really heavier, if I have to say. And the danger of heaviness isn't failure, it's narrowing. Teachers start doing what's urgent instead what's important. I always believe in this urgent and important. I have attended some time management sessions where they speak about the four quadrants, which is urgent, important, not so important, and yes, urgent, important, not so important, and very urgent. And it's basically an emergency. So if you have, again, I think that the time you require to organize yourself or put your priorities into these into the four quadrant also takes time. And sometimes I feel, but it does help. You have to manage your time. So Besides managing the time, there's another thing that is up to looking at the expectation is the emotional weight beneath the cognitive load. Now let's talk about the emotional layer because it sits underneath everything. So teachers today are not just instructors. As I said, they will not be just delivering content, but they would be emotional regulators, safe adults, first responders to anxiety, translators of stress when it comes to dealing with our children. So, research from the American Psychological Association highlights the emotional labor. Managing one's emotion while supporting others is one of the strongest predictors of burnout in caring professions. So, like teachers often absorb student anxiety, family pressure, systematic expectations, and then are expected to reset instantly for the next lesson. One teacher actually described it, I would just like to quote, I don't carry my bag home, I carry the day. I'm not sure if, I had seen this movie. There was one movie, I would not name the movie, but I remember that lady was in the profession. She was a doctor, and she had a case which was really, really not like she couldn't handle it back in the hospital. She was quite broken down. Okay. And when she's back home, her husband is waiting like for her, and he has his own set of expectations to just pour it out to her. And and she's so upset, she is so disturbed, it's like clear on her face and facial expressions. And she even, she goes beyond and gets further disturbed with the husband's reaction and the amount of juggling she is doing for herself. And that just spills out at home. And we do see there's an outburst at home, and the relationship is getting affected. I don't know if there have been at times that you have been dealing with multiple things as a teacher and you take that baggage back home. How are we treating our own children when we've had a disturbed day? Our own families, when it is comes to giving time to our spouse. Sometimes even I have realized that we do, like, so many things, and it's not out of deliberance, or it's not out of it is out of passion, that you feel you must give your 100%, you must give over than more than 100% for something, and you will go out of your way to do that, but at the cost of what? So I want to talk to you. I want you to reflect upon educators out there that expectations are high. Density, I mean to say, work is not getting harder, it's getting heavier. But how do we tackle it? Why just being resilient isn't enough? I'm sure all of us have been told to be, this word resilience. But resilience is not infinite, it cannot replace structural support. Resilience grows when expectations are realistic, priorities are clear, teachers have an agency. So I feel resilience is not built by asking teachers to endure more, it's built by reducing unnecessary load so they can do their core work well. So if you're listening right now and thinking, I feel overwhelmed, but I can't explain why, it's not because you are disorganized or it's not because you lack skill, it's because the role asks you to hold too much at once. So, I'm just going to slowly move towards, like, I want to explore what often gets overlooked in this conversation, that the emotional labor of teaching, and why acknowledging it isn't weakness but a professional honesty. So, because we cannot talk about expectations without talking about the human cost. Excuse me. So, just moving in further, let me just share, as I just had a flashback of a movie, let me share some very ordinary stories. They are not like quite exceptional or extreme, but I felt it could help us to think where we can draw the line. So, first one is about a primary teacher. Okay, this is her statement. She says, by the time I reach my third lesson of the day, I already feel behind. Not behind in content, behind in everything else. I haven't finished logging in data from from morning. I haven't replied to parent email. I was already adjusting lessons on the go because one child was dysregulated and another was disengaged. And then she said that struck me. I'm constantly reacting. I rarely feel like I'm leading. That feeling of reacting rather than teaching is becoming common. I just want to leave a little pause for you to think of what I said. The next story is about a high school teacher, maybe highly experienced, confident in subject knowledge. And she said, my teaching hasn't changed much, but the number of people I'm accountable to has. Students, parents, line managers, systems, inspection frameworks. I feel watched more than supported. Neither of these teachers lacked the skill, neither they lacked commitment. What they lacked was space, mental, emotional, and professional space to teach well. So, don't get me wrong, these stories aren't about failure, they are about pressure without redesign. This brings me to something we need to talk about honestly. The problem isn't that expectations exist, the problem is that expectations have accumulated and not evolved. New responsibilities are added, old ones are rarely removed, and over time, teaching becomes less about intentional practice and more about survival management. There's something which refers to the next, what I'm going to talk about, and I came across was initiative fatigue. Like schools introduced new assessment approaches, new well-being frameworks, new digital tools, new pedagogical priorities, often with good intentions. But when initiators are layered without alignment, teachers are left holding the weight. A study published says, I won't name it, but yeah, teachers working under constant reform report lower instructional confidence. Not because they know less, but because priorities keep shifting. When everything is important, nothing feels secure. So in my this segment, I spoke about initiative fatigue, which is one thing. The second one would come up with catching up, the illusion of catching up. There's also this dangerous narrative circulating that teachers and students need to catch up on the catch up on attainment, catch up on lost time, catch up on latest research, catch up on latest technological advances. But learning doesn't work on a rewind button. This pressure to accelerate often leads to rushed lessons, reduced processing time, and service coverage. And teachers feel the tension between I know this needs time and I don't have time. The internal conflict is exhausting. Finally, I think I've come up with another one which most of you would agree with me is performance versus practice. What is this performance versus practice? In many system, performance has quietly overtaken practice. Teachers feel judged on visible outcomes, neat evidence, immediate results. But real learning and real teaching is not always visible at that moment, right? Teachers are not resistant to change, they are resistant to unsustainable change. Where I would like to draw your attention to my last segment. And I'm a little sad today that I don't have anyone who's joined the show, who's actively listening the show. But if I would have had someone, it would have been great so that we could have some conversations and get some responses, because I think this topic would really come out well if people would have shared their experiences. So, what actually helps teachers meet expectations sustainably? Before I go on to this final segment, I would take a short, quick break.
This show is brought to you in partnership with Hachette Learning, publishers of professional development books and resources that support great teaching and learning in schools around the world. Level up your professional development today and visit hachetlearning.com to explore the full range of titles.
Hey teachers, it's Tom here from Teachers Talk Radio, just dropping in to tell you about Teachers Talk Connect 2026. We are back with our amazing big annual CPD and networking extravaganza in Manchester. It's on Saturday, the 14th of March, and tickets are completely free for teachers. Just head over to ttradio.org/connect 2026 to grab your ticket today. We can't wait to see you there.
This
Hello and welcome back. That was a very quick, very short break. But yes, coming to my last and the final segment for the day, what actually helps teachers meet expectations sustainably? So let's shift now very intentionally from pressure to possibilities. I did speak a lot about what real teaching looks like, but do we have a way out? Yes, we do. So, what actually helps teachers respond to today's expectation without burning out? It's not motivation, it's not slogans, but it is the design. Redesigning the day, not the teacher. So many support programs focus on fixing teachers, but the evidence suggests that we need to fix the conditions. So, research in some psychology, organizational psychology shows that performance improves when roles are clarified, priorities are reduced, decision making is simplified. For teachers, this looks like fewer simultaneous initiatives, clearer non negotiables, and permission to say, not now. Teaching improves when focus replaces fragmentation. I'm sure when I said this term, permission to say, not now, I really want this to reiterate in everyone who's teaching out there. There, you have to take a call. You have to have that what is urgent, what is an emergency, what is not urgent, what is important. You have to know how to categorize these things and then say not now. I think this also clearer non negotiables will be great. Like in your day as a teacher, you have to see there would be certain things that would definitely fall under those non negotiables, and that will help you plan clearly. Recently, I've been reading a book. I've not mentioned the name, but yes, it is planning with impact in mind, not volume. So, effective planning today is not about how much you include, it's about what truly matters in this lesson. What can students do without me? Where is my presence most needed? I think there's something when you plan, if you know your students really well, this is something that has worked miracles in planning. As I started my conversation talking about what the teacher does in a lesson and how her different decisions, the amount or the number of decisions she has to take within a lesson, if you want to reduce that, and if you plan well, and if you look at impact, and if you look at student learning outcomes, it will only come when you know your children really well, when you know them not only data wise, you must know them in a very holistic manner. So I think when you plan in a way where you're looking at the impact and the outcome, so that is where you will be doing the right thing. So, one well designed task has more impact than multiple loosely connected ones. Using time as a teaching tool. Time is not just a constraint, it's a design, it's a choice. So teachers who report greater well-being like often reuse planning structures, stand Then they standardize routines, automate where possible, protect transition moments. Yeah, I think this is another thing which really works well, because even when I have been here in this profession for so many years, but there are certain things that I use it consistently, because I know they've been there, and they've shown me results. So I do not try to reinvent the wheel. I do not try to make something new all the time. I use what has worked well. Yes, though there might be a lot of reforms and updates coming up, but if it has worked, it has worked. Sometimes, I try it out. Maybe it's a new digital tool for that matter, but I had tried out another tool which still exists and it's in working and it really worked well. And I would go back and use that. There's no harm in going back and using things. So, using time, when I said time as a teaching tool, is there had been a time that you used some things and it worked out and it went very well. Go ahead. Emotional labor needs acknowledgement, not silence. So, support begins with naming reality. Schools that openly acknowledge emotional labor, like normalize reflection, encourage peer support, reduce isolation. I'm sure in today's time, this has been a norm where schools have a very well established system where it comes to balancing the emotional needs of employees, whether it's just having a buddy system or, open door system, or even leaders being trained to cater to the emotional aspect, well-being aspect of employees. I think definitely here, yes, we have that, and that really supports and gives a kind of a boost for performance, for getting back with things. I think yes, that is there. Let me offer a final reframe for my listeners. So, meeting today's expectations does not mean doing everything. It means doing the right things consistently over time. So, of course, backing out is not a solution at all. In between, I spoke to you about, I do know a few people who join in the profession, and it's not even like 2 months, 3 months, and they just want to, like, we cannot do it. It's too much. It's too overwhelming. And on the contrary, I know of people who keep jumping schools. I don't know how it works out. How does it solve the problem? But I really don't think that's the solution. You may disagree with me again with this, but I feel if you are, I'm not saying be in the comfort zone. Of course, when you are with a school for a longer time, you know the systems, you know how things have been working. They know you more than important. And you're not working at, proving yourself, making a mark. Now for you it is more of the reality, especially dealing with students. It's about the impact you can have with children, the impact that we are looking forward for students learning outcomes. And also because it's been years you've been dealing with students, they are still around you, you know how they've learned better, and you meet them day in and out. I think they really connect with you. So being in the same school might get you really into the grinding of doing things in a more systematic way, having your own ways of working which have made you settle. And that's why you've extended so much, stretched yourself, and you're still there. You love your profession because you've tried, or you've really figured it out really well as to what you're doing. So, just wanting to make things very reflective today. Educators out there, as I said, teaching today, rising expectation, real pressures, and how educators can respond sustainably. It's very important to look at how you can prioritize things, important and unimportant, urgent That is something like very, very important that you can do. Have your quadrants in place, time management in place, and I'm sure most of the teachers are doing. I have been going through so many blogs. I will say not blogs, also like social media pages, and I do see how much teachers are doing. And sometimes I also wonder how do they have the time, because they are structuring, organizing themselves in the right way, doing things that are needed, and doing things that are right. That's what is being responding to sustainable. So I hope you all enjoyed my show today. I know it was solo. I did not have any guest. I did not have any moments of real high and getting you uh, reflecting on, but I'm sure the questions that I posted, the discussion that I had, and I'm finally just having like a way out, is coming up with clarity and thinking of what we can do rather than quitting. I think that is what I really wanted to share with you. And I just want to leave you with a closing message. As we come to the end of today's show, I want to tell you this. Teaching today is demanding, not because teachers are doing less, but because they are being asked to hold more. More responsibility, more emotional labor, more expectations. If you are feeling stretched, tired, or quietly questioning whether you're doing enough, please hear this. You are not failing, you are responding to a profession that has changed. Good teaching today is not about doing everything, it's about doing what matters thoughtfully, consistently, and humanely. You don't need to be perfect, you don't need to carry it all alone, and you don't need to prove your worth every day. Sometimes the most professional thing a teacher can do is pause, reflect, simplify, and protect their own well being. Because teaching is not just about sustaining learning, it's about sustaining the people who make learning possible. So, thank you for the work you do, often unseen, unspoken, but deeply meaningful. This is Famida Chaudhary signing off from Teachers Talk Radio. Take care of yourselves and take care of one another.
You've been listening to Teachers Talk Radio. Tune in live and listen back at ttradio.org. We look forward to hearing from you next time on Teachers Talk Radio.